Lisa Gifford here, and you are here for our very first block of the month, and this is Tealing Good, and today we are going to be starting with block 1. But before we get into all of that, I'm kind of going to go over a little bit of the things that I have found that's kind of very helpful, and then I'm going to go over a few things for those of you who are watching that you can purchase, and those of you who might want the pattern, I've got some very good news on that. So again, this is Tealing Good. This is the block of the month, and this will be going on for the next 10 months. And as today being the last Tuesday of the month, they're going to be the last Tuesday of every month for the next 10 months. So this is what we're going to be working on, the block of the month, and this is Tealing Good. This is featuring Wilmington Batiks. So this will be my first full batik quilt that I've done. I've done lots of quilts, but not one in all batiks. I've done block of the months, but I've never done one of this magnitude, and I've never taught one. So this is going to be brand new for me, and kind of working through all the bugs until we get it all figured out. But here it is. This is the block of the month. It makes a queen size quilt. It is 98 by 102, so hopefully maybe sometime in November, once we have it all completed and all quilted and everything, I'll be able to show you the final version of it. So I'm very excited to see us doing this. I mean, this is kind of a little bit out of my element, but I thought this will be a lot of fun. So I want to talk about the pattern that those of you who did purchase our block of the month, you would have received not only all the fabrics that you need to be able to make it, and I had them all labeled for you, and then, but you've also received the 2 patterns. So you've had one pattern that was a full kit pattern. So this is one where if you just wanted to take all your fabrics, cut them up, it had all the cutting instructions in here, and then for making all of the blocks was in the full kit version. This is where you didn't have to follow along for the block of the month. Then you also received the block of the month, and this is the one that we're going to be following with all the pages in here for block 1, block 2, and all the cutting instructions and everything that we need. So I'm going to give you some hints on what I did for all of to get started all the heading. And then here is the big flyer. So I don't know if everybody received the big flyer, but I did reach out to Wilmington, and they said we are able to purchase or be able to sell the patterns. So what we're going to do between now and before we have our next one, which will be at the end of February, we will be doing, for those of you who want to purchase the pattern, we will be selling the block version, the block of the month version, the kit version, and 11 by 17, all of these together in a kit. And so we'll be putting that online so that all of you will be, those of you who want to purchase the pattern and maybe use your own fabrics, or maybe pick up the Wilmington fabrics. We actually have them at the storefront. Trying to figure out how I could get kits out to you or get fabrics out to you. So we're going to get that all figured out. Oh, I see some of you have jumped on. Thank you so much for hanging out with me today. I don't have a moderator here, but James is here. So if he sees a question that pops up, then he will let me know about it. We are not on YouTube for this first one. What we're going to do, thank you, Miss Rhonda, for that and for that question. We're going to be doing them live on the main page that you're on right now, and then we will be taking this, and then we'll be, correct me if I'm wrong, James, we'll be posting these onto Creating with Martelli, the Creating with Martelli Facebook page. We'll also be putting it onto the YouTube channel. So you'll be able to see it in other avenues besides just being on the main page of what you're on right now. So we're going to get them posted onto the other pages, but right now we're just doing it live each month on the last Tuesday of every month at 1 o'clock Central Standard Time, the channel you're on right now. So it will be in other avenues. So those of you who might want to use your own fabrics and want to purchase the pattern, we're going to have this up so you'll be able to purchase the pattern. We're going to have it where you'll get all of it in a pattern, or David even suggested I may be able to offer the pattern where we could also get you the little binder that I'm using. So that was one of the things that I found was very helpful for me. If you haven't got a little binder notebook, get one, because it's going to help to lay it all out. And then what I also got was the little clear protective sheets that you could pick them up at Home Office Depot or any place. And I have them all laid out in here. And I actually added some little tabs in between, and I don't really know if I needed those so much. But I have it all laid out so I can easily open it up and get to which month that I'm working with. Now, one of the things that I'm going to talk to you about was in this process, there's a main page, and I think it's in your page, where you have this one page right here where it talks about all the fabrics that was in the whole kit. All of the fabrics are right here. And I had cut them all per what the instructions were and labeled all of them for you. So one of the first things that I would have you do is get yourself some large Ziploc bags. I think you can get Ziploc bags like in a 2.5 inch or 2.5 gallons. Just get some large Ziploc bags. And I put all of my fabrics, I just grabbed some bags that we had here. I put all of my fabrics. So this was the one that was labeled A, and I stuck it in here. So I labeled all of my bags with whatever ones that we're using. So all the ones that we're using for this first 2 blocks that we're making, because we're going to be making one of block for, here, I'm going to just flip around. This is what we're making today. We're making this one. We only make one. And then this one, block 8, we'll be making 4. We're making one of these, block 1, and we're making 4 of block 8. And they're all 12.5 inch sizes. So then I would recommend getting another bag that you will label, that you will put your finished blocks in. So that's what I'm doing to kind of keep everything organized. What are some other tools that I've used? Well, I found it was very useful for me to get me some Post-it notes. You could use Post-it notes, or you could pick up the chip markers. They would also be very useful for this project. The Post-it notes I found worked a little bit easier because you're changing things up, because what's labeled once gets a different label, and then you label a different label again. So I found it was easier for me to be able to use the Post-it notes for this project than just the chip markers. Only because there's so much changing as you're making the pieces and putting the pieces together to make another block. So that's why the Post-it notes work for me. So I have all of my fabrics in bags labeled. So these are the ones, everything that's in this box right here is what started off for all the fabrics that was pulled for the first month. And then in this bag right here are the ones we haven't gotten into yet. They're all, again, in the bags with the big, you know, that's all labeled with fabrics that was in there. So those weren't cut yet. Let's see, like I said, the Post-it marks. You're going to need some marking tools. Because this is such a dark fabric, most of it is dark, I have the Martelli pins right here, the Martelli fabric pins. So I'm using this one, and I've got the white chalk in here because it works very good for, you're going to be drawing some lines. And then I found a pencil for the lighter fabrics. You're going to have to draw your lines because you're making a lot of half square triangles with this project. Of course, the Martelli road cutter. Now, one of the main things, the most important thing for this is to be sure that you have perfected your 1/4 inch seam allowance. I recommend making sure that you're sewing everything with a scant quarter. And if you don't know what that is, that's like 2 or 3 threads over from an actual 1/4 inch, because it's better to be a little bit larger than a little bit smaller, because you want that finished block to work out to be that 12.5 inches. So that is this block right here. This is block number 8. I only made one. I made one of block 8, and we're going to make block 1 and block 8 today. We're going to sew it up. We're going to get it all sewed up today. But this is how pretty it is. It's such a beautiful block. So this is block, I think I got it upside down. It goes this way. So this is block 8, one of them, and we'll be making 4 total of this one. And I didn't even make block 1 because I wanted to make that with you, all of you. All right, some other tools that I found were useful, particularly in constructing this box. If you have our templates, the 3.5 inch square, you're going to use this. You're going to use the 6.5 inch square. You're going to be using these. And then at the very end, when the block is completely finished, that's why we added, when you bought the kits, you got the 12.5 inch square, because you're going to, all of these blocks are going to be finishing at 12.5 inches. So that way, if you need to trim it up a little bit, it's awesome to use the Martelli templates to square it up and get it finished. Some starch, I recommend if you have a little bit of spray starch, have that. Of course, a great iron. Clips, going to use a lot of clips for this project, unless you're using pins. but that is, oh, a marker. I used a highlight. I'm going to have a highlighter. There's going to be things, so I'll highlight some things that I might need to work, pay attention to. Of course, a marker for marking all your bags so you can keep everything nice and labeled. And then to mark, a pen or a pencil to mark your Post-it notes as you're working along. So one of the first things I would do, besides making sure you've got the perfect 1/4 inch, Martelli has this awesome little tool, the curing, measuring, I'm going to get it right here, the measuring gauge to help you with perfecting that 1/4 inch. And I would recommend doing a scant 1/4 inch for all of your sewing. So just moving your needle over a couple little dits to get it to that perfect scant 1/4 inch. That's what I found worked the best, so everything's going to come out to be right and not too small. So I was working, making sure I have my perfect 1/4 inch seam allowance. Now, a couple of things they talked about was these extra drawings, and I'll get into all of that. So I'm going to talk about for a minute when you're starting all of your cutting. So what I first did going into block of the month 1, if you take a look at this page right here, I'm going to pull it out. It's telling you for block 1, you're going to need fabrics E, F, I, M, and T. So I pulled all those. And then for block 8, you're going to need fabrics A, D, E, H, F, H, L, M, and S. So those are the ones I pulled, which I already have right here. But when I was doing my cutting to do these, I constantly referred back to the main, this main page right here. This sheet right here that went through all of the blocks, all the fabrics, and it shows you on here where else those fabrics are being used. So like this fabric, like here, A, block A. Fabric A is being used in the second block that we're making. But it's also being used, in months 1, 2, and 9. 1, 2, and 9. So what I had done was I would flip over to, okay, 1, how much I'm having to cut that fabric A. And here on our instructions, it tells us from fabric A, you're going to cut 3.5 inch strips and subcut into 8 3.5 by 6.5 inch pieces. So at the very top of the instructions here, because I kind of went throughout the whole thing as I was going through letter A, I wanted to point out something. On the Tealing Good month 1, it tells us to carefully read all the instructions before you even start doing any of your cutting and identify all of your fabrics, what we've done at the beginning. And then all of them includes a 1/4 inch seam allowance, and the strips are cut selvage to selvage for the yardage. And here's another key point, selvage to cut edge if we're doing fat quarters. So if you look at here, you've got fabric requirements for month 1. You're going to, a fat quarter is 18 by 21. A fat eighth is 9 by 21. And a fat FS, my goodness, I kept fat 16th, I think is what that is, 4.5 by 21. So those are important to know what those are. And it tells you right here, fabrics A, E, H, and S are all fat quarters. So I looked at that, and then fabrics D, F, I, L, and T are fat eighths, and then fabric M is a 1/2 yard. So knowing that how much you had received, so before I even started cutting A, and knowing that A is a fat quarter, which is 18 by 21, and when you had gotten A, I'm trying to remember how much everybody had gotten. Let's see, let me go to A. See if I can find my A. I can't remember how much was on it total. I have it somewhere where I put it all in here. Well, bear with me just a second. Let me find out how much was on A, because when we did all these cuttings, you got all of that. So on fabric A, you would have received about 5/8 of a yard. So 5/8 of a yard is what you had received on fabric A. So knowing that A is a fat quarter, so then I'm looking at where else A was used. Well, it's used for month 2 and month 9. So if I scroll to month 2 and I look at fabric A, it's asking for on month 2, knowing that it's being used for month 2, it needs a fat eighth. But it's also, A is being used for month 9. So I went all the way back to month 9. And fabric A is another fat quarter. So you'll be cutting your fat quarters, so you'll have 2 fat quarters from that 5/8 that you'll cut, and that extra piece, that's going to be the one that you're going to use for month 2. Does that make sense? And it recommends that every scrap that you can, you save them in here. So here I'm going to pull out my A. Be sure you iron all of your fabrics before you do any cutting. So before I started with A, I had my fabric laid out and I completely ironed it nice and pristine. And then I cut out my fat quarter, and then I had my last piece for my fat eighth. So I think I've got my other fat quarter in here. Hold on. Yep, here's my fat quarter. So I cut one fat quarter. I've already used it. So knowing that month 9 is a fat quarter, so here's my already fat quarter. So I cut my half yard off and then split it in half. So I have my 2 fat quarters. And then the rest of it is part of my month 2, which is the fat eighth. So just save all of your pieces, because then you're going to be breaking them down for each month. So once I got A done, then I labeled all of those, that piece as that's my A, and I set it aside, and then I went ahead and subcut before I went on to the next fabric. So I subcut fabric A, going back into where I was. So fabric A got subcutted into 3.5 inch strips. So knowing that was a fat quarter and looking at the instructions they have on here to do your subcuts are from the selvage to the cut strip. So that was important to know that the strips are cut from selvage to selvage for yardage, or selvage to the cut edge. So instead of it having it long way laid out in front of me, so like this, I had it where it's long way. So here's my selvage and here's my cut. So I didn't have it laying out where it's long this way, but it was long this way to cut my pieces. And then from there, I went ahead and cut my then I cut my 6 pieces that were 3.5 by 6.5. So I cut it into 3.5 inch strips, and then I cut my 6 pieces into that. And that would have been these pieces that are right here. So I labeled these as A. And then I went on to the next fabric and the next fabric. So does that kind of make sense in what we're doing? So once I got done with A, then I moved on to what was the next one, and going that fabric D. So looking at fabric D, that one's done as a fat eighth. Going back to my main thing, looking at fabric D, that one's being used for months 1, 2, 5, and 9. So again, I wrote it down on a piece of paper. 5 is this, 9 is this. Matter of fact, I have a notebook. Let me go grab that, because that's where I started jotting it all down. Sorry I didn't have that with me, because on my notebook I was jotting everything down. So this helped me in processing each of the fabrics. So I got me a piece of paper and I wrote A, B, C, D, all the way down to T. So if you look here, this is where I had A. I went ahead and cut my fat quarter, and I wrote fat quarter 1. And then I went ahead and cut my fat eighth, that's my 2, and my other fat quarter, that's my 9. So once I had those cut, I highlighted them out that I was done, and then I put them in the bag. So then the next one was D. D required for month 1 a fat eighth, month 2 a fat eighth, month 5 a 1/3 yard, month 9 a fat quarter. So I just took that fabric and I broke it down to all of those components, and once I had them all done, I highlighted it that I had them done, and then I put my D's all away and just kept out the one that I need for this month. So all of these highlighted ones are the ones that was pulled for this month. The ones that you see nothing those fabrics hadn't been pulled yet because they're going to be later on down the road. So this helped me kind of keep everything in line. I wrote up here what a fat quarter is, what a fat eighth, what a fat 16th was, and I just kind of kept it all together like that. It just kind of made it easier for me to keep everything in line. This will be just something I'll just have with me as I work through each month and marking everything down. So like next month, when we go into month 2, say if I have to repeat D, so here it is a D, here's an A, so I already know I already have them done. I'll just pull them out of the box, of the bag that they're in, and then I'll pull the ones that I haven't cut, just to kind of keep myself lined up. So each one, I pulled out the fabric A, pressed it, got it ready to go, and then I did my cuttings for the whole 10 months. As for just the yardage, I didn't cut them, I didn't do any sub-cutting yet. I just cut for each month that fabric's being required for, and then set aside the one that's going to be cut up for that block that we're working on that month. Does that make sense? Okay, so I'm hoping everybody, that's kind of how I got my mind to work around it as I was working. So, and it helped me keep things organized. So when I cut all of my pieces, then I labeled them, all right, these are my A's, these are my D's, these are my C's. Because then the next step was then you're taking those components and it tells you other things to do with them. So let's go back to block 1. And I constantly use this sheet that you would have got in your packaging to follow along, because it's going to tell you where each of these fabrics are going to be used and in what month they're being used in. It was really, really helpful. So those of you who want to purchase the pattern later, you also will have that. And I do recommend getting a binder notebook and get some clear plastic sheets just to keep everything nice and safe and protected. So here's the 2 blocks that we're going to be sewing up today. And then I just started working on the subcuts. So from when you had A, when you actually got all my subcuts and I set them aside, now I can go ahead and subcut A. So I subcut A into what was required. You're cutting your 3.5-inch strips, and then you're cutting them into 3.5 by 6.5 inch pieces. And then when I got done, I wrote on here A. So I had an A that was labeled on here with a Post-it note. Just put A on it. Then I went to D, and I cut a 7.5-inch strip and subcut it into 2 7.5-inch squares. Well, I just grabbed my 7.5-inch square and I just cut out the 7.5-inch squares. Well, that means number D is being used in block 8. So that would be this right here, these right here. So these are going to be no, it's T and M. That's going to be here. These are the D's. So I had a D, and then I have an M. So I have 2, a D and an M that's going to be used. So I marked all of those, and every time I did each one of my subcuts, I put my little label on it, each subcut. So then E, same thing, got all of those subcutted, put my label on it, put the label all the way down. So then once I got through all of those and had them ready to go, then it's going to start telling you of the instructions that you need to do for the next phase of putting your pieces together, because you take those subcuts and then you're going to mix them with other subcuts to make the next block. So let's get my book back in order, because I've left it open, and we're going to put this all laid back out. Any questions so far? How are we doing?
I think we're doing great so far. This makes sense. That's a great idea. Very interesting. Yes, that makes a lot of sense. I read that there is a lot of sugar and starch, so the bugs love it when quilts are stored away.
Okay, I'm not using, I don't know. Well, mine's going to be in Ziploc bags. As I get everything done, once I get the block done and pressed, my final pressing, then I'm going to, like I said, I'm going to have them labeled and put into my larger bags and set aside to where we go to that final point where we're going to start putting everything together. Now, I use the starch that was, and there's a recipe online. I have the potato vodka starch that I use, so I don't know about bugs. I don't get too many bugs up here in the studio, but yeah, I would do whatever I can to protect them, make sure everything is good. So I'm going to try to get my pages put back into this binder here real quick. Everything's all out of whack. Okay, so let's go back. So these are all the pieces that I cut. So they're done. So I have them set aside. So I'm going to set this down. And here are all of my pieces, all ready to go. So the going into the piecing order for month 1 on your instructions. Get these down in here. And also, just so that you know, when we go to that point of when we're going to get the pattern and everything online for all of you, I'm also going to put under there, we're going to have some headings under there of some of the tools that I used in creating this. Like my block presses will be used quite a bit. You're going to see me using those. The squares, the writing tools, the little measuring tools, the chip markers, anything that I use, we're going to also have those subheaded under, and I think David's going to allow us to, if you need to purchase any of these items, I think we're going to have like an additional 25% off. I still haven't figured out all about the fabrics. I know we have a bunch of fabric at the shop that goes with this kit, so we'll have to figure out if I need to make more kits or offer it, because there's going to be a lot of people that will be wanting this. All right, so going into, after I've cut all of my fabrics, A, D, E, F, H, I, L, M, S, and T. I had all of my pieces cut and labeled out in front of me. So then it talks about next going into step 3, and this is where you're piecing order for month 1. So you're going, it says here on the wrong side of all of the M's, and that would have been possibly these right here, all of my M's, these little 3, I think the M's were cut into 3 7.5-inch squares, 4 4-inch squares, and 4 3.5-inch squares. So you're going to grab all of the M's, whether they're the 3.5, whether they're the 4 inches, and whether they're the 7 inches, and then you're going to draw a line from diagonal to diagonal. So what it says here is you're going to draw that line going from corner to corner, and then it's asking you to do another line 1/4 inch from that line. Well, I didn't do that. What I did was I have my foot set at the, that scant quarter. So I am going to sew this as I'm doing, where you're just going to be sewing along that line 1/4 inch from that line. But if you feel you need to draw that additional line, then draw that additional line. So it tells me to do that for all the M's, and then all the F and L 4-inch squares, you're going to be also drawing that line from corner to corner, and it says the same thing, then draw another line on each side 1/4 inch from each side of that line. If you feel like you need to do that, then do that. You're not going to see me have that done. I just drew that single line, and then I'm going to sew 1/4 inch on each side of that line to make, for when I go to putting them together and sewing them. And then you're going to draw that line again when you get to part number 2 of the piecing order. You're going to also do it on fabrics H, M, S, and T, all the 3.5-inch squares. Again, some of them were lighter, like this one, so I used a pencil to draw my line on those instead of, and then I used my white chalk marking tool to draw the lines on the other ones, and I made sure that it was right there on the point, from point to point on the diagonal. And then once you get all of that done, then you're going to start arranging them together. So going into number 3, it says arrange the marked fabrics. Mark fabric F, a 4-inch square right on top of an E square. So now we're putting the E's and the F's together. So this is where these are. So here is my E's and my F's. So the F's got the line, but the E's did not. So here are my E's and F's. So I put them together, and this is where I wrote on my little post-it note, I wrote E/F. There's going to be 4 that you're going to be making, but that block now changes to another name. So the E and F, where you're going to be making 4, it's going to be 4 half square and triangles, so you just got 2 and 2, so you're going to be making 4. Now that block changes names. So this is where I took E/F. I don't know if you can see that. And that block now turns into called Unit 1 or Unit A1 or Unit 1A. So that's where I wrote UA1 on here because I know that that's what this is going to be. Actually, it's supposed to be U2A. U1, not UA1, but U1A. Let me erase that. So this is going to be unit 1A. So fabrics E and F that were cut in the 4-inch squares, 2 of them have the line. E and F turn to unit 1A, U1A. So I wrote that on here. You're going to do the same thing with L and M and L and S. So that is finding it, L and M and L and S. So L and S, L and M. So here's my L and M, here's my L and M and L and S. This is L and S, and this is L and M. So you put your line on, I believe, on the L's. So L and S turns into unit U1C, and unit 1 U1B is L and M's. So I made my little post-it note, L/M, L/S, and then I wrote what those units are going to be once we get them all sewed up. And then we go down to number 5. You're going to grab your M's and your I's. So these are my M's and my I's. M's and I's. So I did the same thing, M/I. These are my M's and I's. These are going to be turning into U2A. U2A's. Y'all see that? And I worked my way all the way through those. Now, if you look at the last photo on your page 2 of 2, you're going to see where those units are being used. U1A's, U are being in block 1, as well as U2B's, and so on and so forth. So that's kind of how those kind of played out. So the UA1 goes over here. So I kind of have them already separated out. So this one here is going to be making my block 1. That's these pieces right here. And these are all the pieces that I'm going to be using that's going to be making block 2. I might have them mixed up right now. But that's the main thing, was paying attention to what it says, focusing on how your cutting is going to be, paying attention that you don't overcut or cut something wrong, because it affects all the other months that we're going to be doing. And then just labeling. That just kind of really helped, labeling all my pieces and then taking that label and rechanging it so that you turn it into what units they are, because those units all put together make that block. I think I got that. Let's see, is there any other questions? Are we good so far? All right, so let's go ahead and let's do some stitching. So I'm going to start right here at going back to piecing order for unit 1 for month 1. So I'm going to grab my E and F's, and we're going to go ahead and get those sewed. So these are my E and my F's. They're all ready to go. And while I'm there, I'm going to go ahead and grab my L and M's and my L and S's. These are all being sewn like half square triangles, and almost like a chain piece and type thing. So we're going to go ahead and get these sewn. So we're going to get through the first few headings of these. Let me see, what was the one that had the H in it? That was HMS and T. HMS and T. Let me find those. That's these. That's these. We'll work on those in a minute. Let's just start first with all of our half square triangles before we go into the flying geese. So these are all the half square triangles. So let's go ahead and get these all sewed up. I think I'm there. Now I just got to find my glasses. Where did I set those down, James? I am the worst of my glasses. I always throw them down somewhere. They're not on my head. I walk them over here.
I think you had them on camera for a second.
I know. I got several pair around here. Who knows where I threw them down? Oh, they hit the ground. They're on the ground. Okay, so we're going to go do some sewing. So again, even when I'm doing these half square triangles, I'm going to have them at a scant. You know, I'm going to have them on my scant quarter. So I have my machine set on the quarter inch. So what I am just going to do is I'm just going to move my needle over a couple of threads. So I'm on the M7. So I have mine at 7.7. So now we're going to take, these are my L's and S's. So I'm keeping my sticker once I have them all sewed, and I'm pulling out all the ones that have my diagonal on. And now I'm going to place them right sides together. And it's kind of hard to figure out what is the right sides because you're drawing your line on the wrong sides. So I'm just kind of lining them up. Now, if you wanted to, you could get yourself a pin and you could kind of pin them on here just to keep them from shifting. I don't usually, but I'm just going to get a pin just to kind of hold it in place. Just lining them up, and these were all cut with the Martelli templates, I believe. One of my good pins here. And I'm going to sew a 1/4 inch down both sides on both sides of that line. Now, this is where it's good to have a little piece of scrap, particularly when you're starting off, because I'm going to be doing some chain piecing on these. But I don't like my fabric to get caught up underneath, so I use my little scrappy fabric here just to kind of start myself off. And I'm going to go ahead and get these lined, these fabrics lined onto here, making sure I got the, you know, batiks are one of those fabrics that's really hard to see what is the right side, what is the wrong side. Don't want anything shifting on me a little bit, so I'm just going to stick a quick pin in it. Any questions out there so far? Now you would have 4 of these, but I've already sewed up 1, so I have 3 of them that I'm going to be doing. I'll get my edges all lined up, grabbing a couple pins. And we're going to sew a 1/4 inch on both sides of that line. Are you with me? Good? Now I want my line to ride right there along the edge of my foot here. Then I'm going to start my next one. And then my next one. Now, I wouldn't typically sew this darker fabric in a light thread, but I wanted you all to see the thread. So this whole quilt's going to be done with a lighter thread. And I wanted to go ahead and grab my little gauge here so that you can see what I'm doing. So I'm looking at my stitch line and my drawn line, and I want to make sure that I am right on the money or just shy of a 1/4 inch. And you can see it right here. I'm just right where I need for it to be. Right where I need for it to be. So now we're going to clip these apart. And we're going to sew the other side.
What color thread are you using?
I'm just using a white. Just using a white for all this. This is still connected. It shouldn't need it. Okay, there we go. And then the last one. go ahead and take out my pins. Because I need to think these through and keep everything organized, I'm just going to go ahead and take these pieces right here, not clip them apart yet. I'm just going to go ahead and stick my little Post-it note label on here. Just so I can, that's what I know what that stack is. So now we're going to go to my L&Ms, which is going to be block number U1B, and do the exact same thing. It just works for me to not get anything mixed up. And do the same thing, just line up everything nice and even. Do that again. And then grab a pin and pin it. This way. Now, James, if there's any questions, just read the question out to me and I'll repeat it.
100%, I got you.
Okay. All right, get this one pinned. Because once we get it all sewed, then we will be cutting them in half and then squaring them up. And I'm going to show you how the template works perfect for this. And last one. This way. I make sure I put my pin far enough away so it doesn't get bothered by the foot. All right, and just like we did that one, we're just going to go ahead and stitch these down. So I'm going to get my little leader strip started. And we're going to start doing our sewing down. I'm going to apologize right now if you hear me sniffling. It's really cold in the studio today. So, nose wants to run. All right, so I'm taking my pins out, getting them ready for the next grouping. Getting my little label, sticking it on here. I'm going to hold it in place. I want to keep them all together. And then the last one here, I'm working on E and F. So this is going to make the unit U1A. It's the right side. And there's my right side. So these I actually marked with the pencil because it was lighter. For me, I think what took the longest was literally getting all the fabric cut and prepared, because I took, I ironed each piece that I was working on, I ironed it first. And then I went back between all the different months so that I made sure I wasn't overcutting something and paying attention to the ones that needed to have the larger cuts. Of course, and it basically says save all of your bigger pieces just in case you might need them for later. Now this one we're only making 4, so we only have 2 pieces because he'll make 4. So we're going to start our leader. And then doing some more half square triangles. Put these apart. What I did with my sticker, oh, it's on the ground. Alright, so this is E and F. And we got this one on here. Alright, so the next step, use a clip, is we're going to clip these apart and then we're going to go ahead and get them pressed. All right. Now, if you have just regular scissors, you can just slice them apart. But we could go ahead and just cut these. So here's my E and F. This is where it's good to have a little bit of a smaller ruler. And I'm just going to cut right there on that line that we had first drawn. And then this one. And we're going to keep these all together. Stick my little unit on there till we're ready to go press and trim these down. All right, then putting these together and putting my clip, keeping them all together. And last one. This is going to be the L&S's, and they are Unit 1C.
Heather Sneller asked, is this a temperature quilt? But Margot jumped on her. Let her know. No, this is not a temperature quilt. It is a block of the month quilt.
I've done a temperature quilt. It's not completed. I did get through month June. Got sidetracked. How many of you ever started a quilt and got sidetracked? All right, so here's L and S's. So all of them are cut, so the last thing will be for ironing them back. So we'll set those aside. because we'll do that at a little bit later. All right, so those were all of those half square triangles for those pieces. So it looked like the next groupings that I have were going to be where it looks like we're going to be making a lot of flying geese. So all of my M's and I's, this is going to be making a unit called Unit 2A. All of my T's and I's make Unit 2B, so I have these here. And then all of these are going to be for all the block 8s. I have A and H's, which make Unit 2C. I'm going to be making 8 of those. And Unit E and S's makes Unit 2D. We'll be making 8 of those. So we're going to go and start putting all these together. These go with block 1. These go with block 2. All right. So these are done a little bit different. I'm getting ready to put 2 pair of glasses on. Did you see that? Oh my goodness. So these are done a little bit differently because you're going to have to cut the one before you can put the other side on. So we will start that. So this one here is the M and the I's. I believe these are 3.5 inch squares, and these are the 3.5 by 6.5 inch triangles. So you're going to be putting, you're going to start with one side first. And you're going to line it up your edges. Now these are not sewn on the quarter, a quarter inch. These are going to be sewn right on the line. So these are a little bit different. You're going to be sewing these right on the line. I found that what I like to do is, so like if I'm sewing right on the line, I will actually sew like a thread over into the line, because when these fold back, you got to take into account that the stitch itself takes up a thread. So when you want these to fold back and match perfectly against the edge of the base block, because you want these to finish at the same size, 3.5 by 6.5. So if you're going to sew these, like from here, looking at this, I'm going to start sewing. I would rather I sew just to the left of that line than to the right of that line on this piece right here. So I'm just going to be one thread over instead of being directly on the line, just a thread over, so that you take up the fold in itself, the stitch in itself takes up a space. So you want it to be able to come out to be perfectly, and I'll show you what I mean by that. So I see my line, which is right there, center. So I went ahead and put my needle in center. I'm going to go ahead and get my little leader started. And I am going to put this right up there where it's going to start on that line, or just left of it, and sew all the way down on that line, or just left of the line. And then we'll grab the second one and we'll do the exact same thing. So looking for my right side, and this is my right side. So I'm lining up the edges here and here. Is this looking like it's not right? Hold on a second. I might not trim this up. This is a scant too big. It needs to be 3.5 inches. Somewhere along the line, I am 1/8 of an inch too big. Let me trim this up a little. And that's important. You want it to be right. So now we are 3.5 inches. it down. So off a little. What am I doing? I'm off on this one. Ever done that? I need it to be 3.5. It was supposed to be 3.5 by 6.5. I might not have got this one right. All my squares I cut with my 3.5-inch blocks. I know they're right, so I must not have got the strips right. There we go. On this side. And then just starting off right there at that point and just being right just to the left of that line. Now these we have to press back, and you got to trim off the excess. So you got to trim it back to where 1/4 inch. So this is where I would see here. We would go to the iron, we'd press this back. We're going to press this one back. So let's go ahead and do that, and then we'll trim it, and then we'll be able to do the other side. And when you fold it back, it should match up with the base block. Iron's not real hot. Now we're going to just trim it off, and then we'll get the other side done. So this is where you can go to the cutting table, you can trim it off, or just have yourself some scissors beside you, and you're going to trim off all of that, but leave 1/4 inch seam allowance. Now if you wanted to be real creative, you could sew another 1/4 inch. So I've done that before. So I make some tinier half square triangles. Well, I will sew another, let's see, a 1/2 inch. Let's see, how would I do that? I would sew again right here and then cut in between it, so that way I would have another half square triangle already done. We're not going to do that today. You save all your little half square triangles for another project later on down the road. All right, so this one's folded back and this one's folded back. Now these are the other two pieces that we're going to put on the other side. So now you're going to take the other square, and you're going to lay it on here. Because now we're going to create that flying geese unit. So you're going to line it up on the edges, and you're going to see it's going to cross over into the piece that you had just sewed. And we're going to just sew just left of that line like we had done before. Right there on the line, or off to the left of it. And just stitch across. Actually, on the right side of the line this time. So when I fold this back, it will now match up to the other side, like that. I'm going to repeat that for the other one. Fold this back, lay our block on. Now this time I'm having to sew just to the right of that line from the different direction that I'm on. And that's where I forgot my leader. Why leaders are good, because it doesn't will catch it. And I probably should put a different foot on here. Here we go. So that is this one. I'm going to go ahead and just finger press it. Get a good finger press and go ahead and trim off that excess material. Then take these two pieces. We'll iron them in a second, but I'm just going to go ahead and put my label back on them. That way I keep track of everything. Set those aside, and now we're going to repeat these for the other ones. Now I'm working on the T and I units. This is going to make unit 2B. And just like the others, I want to test these, make sure they're all 3.5. 3.5. 3.5. Now this one has a wrinkle in it. Iron that wrinkle out. So one thing about batiks, they can get these little wrinkles that you thought you got them out, and they can show back up. Any questions? Are we good so far?
I'm glad to be able to watch. And this is all batiks. Did you really ask that question?
It's all batiks. This will be my first all batik quilt that I have ever done. Get my little leader. Grab me another leader here. Got all these little scraps that I can use for leaders. I'm going to go ahead and finger press it back, making sure everything is going to my edges. And then we will trim away our excess material and then do our other side. All right, now we're going to start with the next one. Get my leader started. And the second one down. And then get started on this one. same thing. We're going to do a finger press. Press it back, making sure everything is lining up at the edge. And then trim away your excess. You get about a 1/4 inch from the edge. So that when you're done, you're going to have that nice seam allowance right there, that 1/4 inch that's going to be right there. All right, so here are these two. So this was unit 2B. These are completed. Getting my little sticker, setting it on here and clipping that on. Just to keep track of everything that we're doing for the units that they are. Now we're going to start with the A and the H's. So we got quite a few of these to do. There's actually 8 total of A and H's. So this is going to be making unit 2C. So this is going to be making all of the other, well, you're only making one of block 1, but you're making 4 of block 8. 4 of block 8. So these are all done the same, just like what we just completed. So we're just going to grab our ones and then line them up on our edges and just zip down all of these. Any questions out there? How many of you got your fabrics cut and ready to go? No, that didn't look good.
I've been collecting petite scraps from Margot. Rhonda says, according to my husband, I collect everything. And that's okay. Hubby collects Hawaiian shirts. 117 and counting.
117 to count. Okay. I am thinking I might need to change my needle. I haven't changed my needle in a minute. That didn't sound pretty. All right, give me a second. I just did some heavy sewing on this machine earlier today, so I think I'll feel better if I switch out a needle here. Those of you who are getting the block of the, what was it? What did we do earlier today, James?
I'm sorry, what was that?
What did we do earlier today? It was the subscription box. Subscription box.
Sorry, it's been quite a day.
It has been a day, let me tell you. So we did that tutorial, the video this morning on the subscription box. And I have been sewing like crazy, and I haven't changed my needle in a minute. So I'm going to get this needle changed. Sewing all the samples up, which I can't show you. So Mario, you on? You said you were going to watch today.
Oh yeah, Margot's on.
Fantastic. Bobbin's looking good. Don't know why it was making a funny noise, but we're going to get this all figured out. Probably needs a good cleaning. All right. Separate these out, do it again. Get my leader back in here. All right. Making sure my right and wrongs.
Valley, it's amazing what a new needle can do.
I know, right? It's like not bunching up like it was. Batiks, but just always seem to have a little bit of a different texture too. So, all right, so that's all of this one. So we're gonna go ahead and clip these apart, fold them back. And then trim them. So I'm doing my little first test fold, making sure everything's matching up on the edges. Give it a finger press. This would be good where you could have your little nesting iron right beside you. And then I'm going to go ahead and trim it. If it looks good, I'm going to go ahead and give that first trim. Lining up
What
good.
needles do you like best for quilting?
Well, I've been using the purple needles quite a bit. So what are they, like a 14? I think. Let me see. I use the Janome purple needles. These right here. I seem to use these for just about everyday sewing. I'll pull out my heavier needles if I'm working with, say, heavier fabrics, or like leather or denim, pleather, stuff like that. All right, so I got this one folded back. Still trimming this down. And 2 more to go. All right, something happened here. Fold it up on the end. There we go. I always test it, make sure it's going all the way to the edge the way I need it to. That's not running short. I don't know if you can see that on here, but here's my, you can see my white line here, and if you notice my stitch line, it is just, on this one, it is just to the right of that stitch line. It's just over from it, so that you don't lose that amount when you go to fold it over. And it lines up just right where I need it for it to line up to when I fold it back, because just that little crease alone takes up a little bit of space. The thread alone takes up a space. Right, so those sides are all done. So you have to get all those clipped back before you can even start the second side of the of these. So now I'm going to go ahead and get this pressed. I just give it a good finger press. Now I'm going to grab my next one, and we're going to line it up so we can get that point that we're looking for the flying geese. And I'm going to be stitching on that line, or just one thread over from it. And I did it again. It's catching under there. How's everybody doing out there?
Everyone's doing great. Lisa, where did you get your nippers?
These, I got these at the storefront. These are the gingers. I have a set of these at home. I use these all the time. When I was working at Vanity Fair, I learned how to sew holding scissors like this. These are the wrong kind of scissors, but I held scissors like this. And of course these are not the right, but this is how we held. When we were sewing, we always held our scissors to do our clipping like this. So I always held them in my hand. And this is the closest thing to that. Usually I always have these in my hand, but I keep setting them down. But I learned how to sew holding scissors with my pinky. Anybody ever done that?
Yeah, another one. This by Chris Embroidery. My next block on a beginner sample is the flying geese block. This how-to is really going to help the beginners, Lisa.
Yeah, let me tell you.
I can't say how many of your tutorials and videos I follow to learn how to use my Martelli templates.
Well, thank you. Let me say, one that was a hard lesson for me to learn, learning how to do flying geese, because they're telling us when they're talking to us, when you sew on that line. But if you sew directly on that line, it's going to come up short every time. So I learned to fudge it over, because that's where I learned that even the thread and the fold itself takes up space. So by having you sew so that when it's folded back, the wider's on the edge, so you're having that scant thread that you're sewing over from that line, it's going to come out perfect every time. That's where it helped me learning how to do better on my skis. I still had my line that I was drawing, but I just sewed just over, just a scant, and you find that everything will always come out right by doing that. But yeah, flying geese takes a minute to get that one mastered. And here we go, last one. All right, there we go. So that's this one. This was grouping U2C. We'll go ahead and clip all these apart. All right, so now I'm going to go ahead and flip them back, making sure that they are all lining up right where I needed them to, like this one's doing. Give it a finger press, and then I'm going to go ahead and clip my excess material off, keeping that 1/4 inch seam allowance there for you.
Is the block of a month a Martelli product? Nope, not yet.
No.
Next month they can keep an eye out for, right?
No, if you feel like this one, if this one goes really well, then we'll look into getting another block of the month. This was Colby's idea. So you can thank Colby. She's the one that who got us onto this one. And it was actually quite pretty I remember when they came in and they showed this one, the Wilmington dealer, and it was really pretty. I know we have a lot of this fabric still at the shop. Look at that. Perfect, perfect. And just watch for us when we get that page built on the website, where we're able to pick up the pattern. And maybe if you want to get the binders, if you don't have a binder, we might have the binders on there. And some of the tools that you're going to find that I'm going to use throughout the process of making this project. I know that the block presses are going to be very valuable for this project. And last one here, lining right up the way I need it. All right, there we go. So this is all of these all done. So I just got to press them back. We're not going to do that. We're just going to press them in a second. So we're going to put my little sticker on here, clip that in, and set these aside. So that grouping is done. Now we're going to go blocks are the E and the S's, and again these were 3.5-inch squares and 3.5 by 6.5-inch rectangles. So E and S turns into unit 2D. And just like we did the others, we're going to make sure we get right sides together. And lay this on and stitch it across. Get my little leader, which I toss it aside. Now it needs re-ironed. Some big wrinkles in this one. Get this one smoothed out a little bit more. There we go. Now I know I said to iron all this fabric first, but it looks like I didn't do it. Okay, so let's get the next one on here, lining up my edges and stitching across. All right, now we're going to fold these back, making sure everything's lining up. Pretty good, and then go ahead and trim. Okay. That's good. one more. And that's good. All right, those are all done, so let's get to the other side. Give them a good finger press before we put our next one on. Two more. And we'll start our next blocks over there. The next ones are, we're doing an hourglass block with half square triangles, so that'll be fun. And one more. All right. Are we still with me?
Oh yeah, we're with you.
Y'all bored yet? Watching me so blocky.
Are you wearing a new skinny blouse, Margot asked?
No, Margot, this was one of my blouses that I had. And I got my serger out, and I cut off 2 inches off. I serged it 2 inches on each side, so it didn't look like a balloon. So that worked on that one. I haven't gotten no skinny clothes yet. So I was able to serge this one last night just to see if it would work. I thought it worked. So I got 4 inches cut off of it. How you doing today, Margot? You feeling pretty good? These are all lining up really good, so I'm just pressing them back, and then I'm going to trim them all. And then we'll go grab the next grouping and get those sewed before we start doing all of our pressing. I'll probably just press the ones that we need to be able to make the two blocks for you today. Now I'm just cutting off that extra material and leaving that 1/4 inch all the way down. I already finger pressed them to make sure they all lined up right. Okay, so those are all our little extra pieces. And we're just going to go ahead and stack these up. We'll press them in a minute and put our label on them and go on to the next phase. These are all the components for Unit 2D, made with the E and S fabrics. All right, so these are all done, just got to be all pressed yet. So those are all of our half square triangles, or not half square triangles, but these were all of our flying geese that we needed to make. All right, so now I'm left with these bigger pieces right here. So this one here, you have to make 4 of them. Because I had made one already, that was this one right here, that's this hourglass that was in the center. So I have one that's already made. So here are the last 2 pieces to make for it. And we're going to do that same technique for, this is going to be block 1, we only make 1 of. So these are the 2 fabrics for it. So this is kind of unique. So we'll just go to the sewing machine, we'll get these sewed together, because there's a couple steps to do in this one. So you got your 2 squares that are 7.5 inches in size. This one and this one. So this is block 1, this one is for the block 8, I believe. Yep, okay. All right, so let's go ahead and start the process on putting these together. Okay, so this one here is similar to doing half square triangles, but then we're going to do the technique to turn it into an hour block. So here, an hourglass block. So these are pieces, 7.5 inch squares. This is T and M. So this is going to be first turned into, first unit's going to be called UA3. And then when you finish it, it turns into UA4. Does that make sense? So I've got it all wrote on these little pieces because it turns into UA. Starts off to be UA3s. You'll have 2 of them, then you're going to stack them, sew them again, and then they're going to turn to the final version, UA4s. So you take your 2 pieces, and you're going to place the right side up, and then the one that you've already drew your line down the center. So you're going to match up all of your edges. And because this is similar to doing the half square triangle, I'm going to go ahead and pin it so it doesn't shift. And this one is where we're going to sew that 1/4 inch on each side of our line. And like I did earlier, I'm sliding my needle over just a little bit. And we are going to just go ahead and start with our little, get a little leader here started. And do our 1/4 inch on each side of that line. Now the instructions has you draw on that line. We're not doing that. I'll flip it around and we're going to sew up the other side. And that's this one, and we're going to repeat that for the other. So I'm just going to stick these back on here. We'll clip it apart in a minute and stitch it back. We don't have to even square this one up until the very end. It's block 1. And this is fabrics M and D. They were both cut into 7.5 inch squares. One of them has the line drawn on it. So we're putting them right sides together, and just like we did the other, we're going to line everything up, stick a little pin in it so it doesn't shift, and sew a 1/4 inch on each side. And move it so it's just right. Okay. All right, get our little leader started and off we go. And get down the other side. Okay, take our pins out. All right, so we're going to go ahead and cut these apart. We're going to go to the cutting table, cut these apart. Then we're going to the iron table, we're going to iron them back. Okay. I'm going to start with the T&Ms. This is for block 1. Cut right down that center. And then this is the M and Ds. Go right down that center. You'll notice I'm keeping my little stickers with it. Now we're going to iron these back, and then we have to draw some more lines. So we're going to go over here, and I like to iron these to the dark side. So to the darker side. So here is my M and Ds. So the darker one is the one that's going to get ironed back. I like to set my seam and then press it back. I'm going to lay my block press on that. Again, I'm going to set my seam and then I'm going to press it back. All right, I'm going to do that now to my T and M's. Same thing, I got the darker to the lighter, so I'm going to do my dark on top so I can press it to the dark side. I'm going to set my seam, and I'm going to roll it back. We don't have to do any squaring up on this block right now. We get to square it up at the end. Okay, so give that a second. Now we're going to take these over to the table. We're going to draw a line corner to corner, and I'm going to show you what we're going to do with that because now we're getting ready to turn it into our hourglass block. So we'll have 2 hourglass blocks. Now you're going to be making 2 for block 1, but you're only going to be using one of them. So you'll have an extra block. You're going to make 4 for block 8, and you're going to need all 4 of those. All right, so I got my labels on here, so now we're going to go over here. This is where you're going to need your ruler and a chalk pencil. So here is my M and D. I want to say it's this one. So this is my MD. This is going to, so right now these units are called U3Bs. But now they're going to be turned into, once we finish it, they turn into U4Bs. So you're going to take one of these, and on the wrong side, you're going to draw a line corner to corner because you're going to stack these up so that they're going to be opposite. So you're going to draw a line from here to here because they're going to be stitched down, and it'll be sewn. It'll be like this when it's done. So what process are we at right now? Set my glasses down. So here we go. So if I'm looking at the instructions, we are now all the way down to the second page of the block of the month, and we are working on the M&Ds. So we are on line item number 10, where you'd sewn them here. So now you're going to grab one of these pieces, and you're going to now perpendicular of the line, we're going to draw our line down the center. So I'm going to grab my chalk pencil. And I'm using the white with my marking tool, and I'm drawing my line. Corner to corner. Now you're going to take the one that you haven't drawn on, and you're going to set this down so that you can now be, the reason why you want to press both at the same to the dark side, now your seams are going to nest here. So you're going to stack them on top, and you should feel that nesting in the center. Once you line it up, you're going to feel that nesting right here in the middle. You should feel that nest right there. You might want to grab a couple of pins here to hold it into place. So I'm feeling that nesting, I'm lining it up. So again, so when I peel this back, you can see it's going to be opposites. You see that? You're going to have your opposites here. Nesting that seam. I'm going to stick a pin here. And on the other side. We didn't have to do any squaring up yet. Again, this is my MD block, so I'm keeping that sticker with it. We already had an extra one done. So now I'm going to go to, this is right now our U3As, and they're going to turn into U4As. So the same thing, choose which one I want to use, and I'm going to draw my line on the other ones. This is my T and M blocks that are now called U3As. And I'm going to line up my ruler, and I'm going to draw my chalk line across. We're going to do these like the half square triangles. We're going to sew 1/4 inch on each side. Now I want to be sure to line this up so that my seams nest, and I have the opposites when I peel it back. See that? So I'm going to nest my seams there in the center. You should feel it in the center. Nesting up. Lining up my edges, feeling it nest right here. Grabbing 2 pins, and I'm going to pin it on each side. Just to keep it steady. Didn't pin them right, so I need to pin it this way. I'm going to repin these. Need to be pinned this way. There we go. These are my MDs and my TMs. All right, so now we're going to do our 1/4 inch stitch on both sides of the line for both of these pieces. Still making sure I still feel them nested in the center there. All right, so these are my MD blocks, and they are now the U3Bs. And we're going to sew a 1/4 inch on both sides. Make sure it didn't shift on me. And get the other side. What?
Heather Snother says, when you say dark side, my brain goes to Star Wars.
I know.
Joan Adams, me too.
You can't help it.
Can you leave the press to one side, CA open?
Well, for this one, you really want to be able to nest that seam, and you'll have a hard time nesting that seam if you press all your seams open. You could, if you feel comfortable pressing your seams open, but for this one, the hourglass blocks, you really need to have that, to feel that nesting when you are sewing them together. Because if I peel this back, it's going to be right there on the money here, because this is going to be my 2 blocks right here. This one and this one once I cut them apart, here and here. All right, so that one, I'm sticking my little stickers back on there. So those are that one. So now we're going to go to this one. This is my TM blocks. Same thing, we're doing our little 1/4 inch cross, 1/4 inch from the edge. And down the other side. All right. We're going to clip these apart, and then we're going to go to the ironing board and press them. I think we can probably get all of our pressings done now, because I think I've got everything all put together to start putting our blocks together. We're going to press this one, then we got to square up all these blocks. So I'm just going to square up what I need to be able to make block 1 and then block 2. Or block 8, I guess. So these are him. All right, and then this is this one. All right, so let's take a minute, and we're going to look at going back to the block itself. We're going to just pull out the components that we need to make block 1. So block 1 requires you need 2 of the U1As. So you're going to need 2 of these. Need 2 of the U2As. That's U2As, this one. Working on the 4A. And then U1As. I need 2 of the U1As. No, I guess you need 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. You need all 4 of these. You need these 2. The center, that's going to be this one. You need 1 of these. And the U2Bs. You need these. So these are all the components that we need for block 1, all right here. Block 8, we'll need 1 of these. This is the U4Bs. Of the U1Bs, I need 2 of them. The U1Cs, we need 2 of them. And the U2Cs, we need these. What is this one? U2Ds. Oh, and I need 2 of these. 2 UCs, 2 Ds. This one is UAs and Bs. Use A's and Bs. All right, so this is all the components for block 8. Block 1. So we're going to press these, but we still have some squaring up to do. So let's go and get all of these pressed, and then we'll start doing our squaring up, and then we'll choose which ones we need for to make the block 1 and block 8. Okay, so let's start with these. These are my U2Ds. These are my flying geese, so I'm just going to give these a press. Since they all pressed out to the edge, I might have a little places I might need to snip back. That these should all measure 3.5 by 6.5. Everybody good out there?
Yeah, sound great.
How many people do we have watching today?
We've jumped between like 35 to 20. Right now we're at 17. Some people have mentioned that they're working, so they're going in and out.
Gotcha. Still keeping my little label with it. So these are all pressed and ready to go. Now I'm starting with the AHs. Get these all pressed back. And last one. Bless you.
Thank you. I've been holding that in all episode. My head almost exploded. Oh man.
All right, so here's the AHs. They're pressed and ready to go. All right, so here's my hourglasses. This is the MDs. This is going to be, these are now called the UB4s. So I'm just going to press them back. Doesn't matter. You could probably, this be one you might want to press open your seam if you want, but I'm just pressing it back. I'm going to set my seam and press it back. This is your hourglass block. And these are the ones that I needed for the block of 8. Those all go there. Now we've got these. So these are the half square triangles that have to be squared up. So we'll do those in a second. These are the U1Cs. I press all of these to the dark side. So I flip them over so we can press them all to the dark side. We got to square these all up to, I believe, 3.5 inches. last one. I think I only need 2 of them. All right, so this was the U1Cs. Now these are the U1Bs. I want to press them all to the dark side, so we'll flip them over. I think I only need 2 of these also. They all have to be squared up to 3.5. Two more. One more. Okay. All those are done. All right, now we're going to start with the ones that I know are in the second block, or block 1. So we're going to press our little hourglasses back. Need both of these. Don't need to really do any trimming on these. They are already at 3.5 by 6.5. But we'll check them, make sure. So that is this one. Then we have 2 of these. Right, and here are our 4 half square triangles. This is units U1A, so I choose the darker side, and we'll flip these over, so we'll press to the darker side. All right, those are done. That goes with these. And then we only need, even though we made 2, we only need 1 of the U4As. This is the hourglass that goes in the center of block 1. We still got to square this one up. So we're just going to press the 1. And we'll go ahead and press the second one. Since we're standing here, right, go ahead and press the second one. All right, so that's these. These are all ready. Okay. Gather all our pieces up. Kind of keep them all together. I know these are all the components for block 1. And then we got these over here for block 8. Okay, now let's go get some squaring up done so we can start putting all these together. So I've got to go back a little bit. So when you're looking at the ones that were first made, our very first half square triangles, we need to now square all of these up to, I believe it's 3.5 inches. Trim each one of these into 3.5 inches. So go into block 1. We had all these components right here. So they are the corner pieces on block 1. So it's the U1As, all 4 of them, U1As. That's all 4 of these right here. So all of these need to be squared up to 3.5 inches. If I'm looking at them right now, they're They're bigger than 3.5 inches. So this is where I like to grab my 3.5 inch square template. And I'm going to set this on my block, and I'm going to put two of the points right here on the seam. And we're going to get this quickly squared up to 3.5 inches. So I've got this one point on a seam, this one pointed on a seam. Now I can quickly square it up to 3.5 inches. Just shave that little bit off. Now I got a 3.5 inch block. And we're going to repeat that for all four, because we actually need 1, 2, 3, 4, all four of these to make block 1. Again, this is the units U1A. And I was trying to and my little sticker for this one was when we did the E and F's. So I'm just getting my corner point onto the seam and trimming them up all the way around. Now there are other tools out there for squaring them up, so you can use whatever tool that you feel comfortable using for squaring up your blocks. And number 3, and one more. Gets rid of all those little dog ears and everything. All right, all four done. All right, so let's look at the center block that goes into the hourglass block. So it's the hourglass blocks. You got 2 of them. So that center block, which is now called U4A, that's this one right here. You've got to trim this one up now to 6.5 inches. So we only need one of them. So I'm going to set one aside, grab this one here. Now this is where I grab my 6.5 inch template. And I am actually doing just like what I did for the 3.5. I'm now putting my 4 points on each one of those seams to get it to that 6.5 inches. I'm using my 6.5 inch square. Now I'm going to get this where I have each corner going to be resting on a seam. Once I have it all the way around, now I can go ahead and trim it down to the 6.5 inches. You made 2 of these, but you only need 1. This, I believe, is the center block in the whole quilt. So here is this one done. You got your 4 cornerstones done. Now here are your 4 side pieces. This is your U2As and U2Bs. They should be already at 3.5 by 6.5. This one's right on it. There you go. And then this one. Yep. And last one. Yep. Okay. So now we're just going to lay out the block. So I'm going to go over to the wall and we're going to lay this out. I'll take my book with me so you can see this one, and then we'll sew it together. So the big hourglass goes here with the dark going in, and they're on the sides, the lighter coming. This is the orientation of this block here. Then you take your, let's see, where am I at? The U2As go on the sides. with this pointing in. So it's going to go here, and this one's going to go here. The other hourglass, or flying geese, the U2Bs, again you have it pointing in, so these go here and here. And now you grab your, these are the U1As, and the darker goes to the inside, the lighter is on the outside. So these nest right here. 1, 2, 3, and 4. Right, so we'll sew that one up in just a minute, but that is that block, and if you look at your photo, that's exactly block 1. You only make one of those. Good to go? All right, so let's go ahead and get our one of the block 8s done. I've already made one, but I'll show you putting it together. So this is your extra piece. You don't need this one, so you can set that aside. So starting off with your large hourglass pieces, we're just going to grab one of them. And just like we did the hourglass for block 1, we're also going to trim this down to the 6.5 inch square. So we're going to go ahead and do what I did earlier. I'm just going to line up our points on the seams all the way around. And then we're just going to trim it down. So you'll do this to all 4 pieces because you are making 4 blocks with this one. So this one's ready. Now we need to grab this one here, the U2Cs. The U2Cs. I only need 2 of them, so I'm going to set 2 aside. These should line up already to the 3.5 by 6.5, and I like to just double check. This one's good. And this one's good. So that's that one. Then we have the other ones. This must be the, that was the C's. This one must be the, down here must be the D's. Okay, so here's my D's. So you need 2 of the D's, the U2Ds. So I'm just going to grab 2 of those. These again are the flying geese. So I only need 2 to make a block. These are the A's. All right, so we're going to make sure these all match up to the 3.5 by 6.5. This one's good. And this one's good, so those are done. So now we're going to go ahead and grab our other pieces. These are our cornerstones. So the cornerstones, I need 2 of the U1Bs. And that's these down here. So we need 2 of them, so we're going to square these up to the 3.5 inches. So this is where I'm going to grab my 3.5 inch square, and I'm going to go ahead and trim those up. So just like I did the others, I'm lining up my point onto the seam. I mean, you might just be cutting off, you just might be shaving off just a hair. So however you need to, whatever tool that you use for squaring up your block, utilize that tool. And do that for all. You're going to need you need 2 for the block. So I'm going to go ahead and get this one done, and then we'll have 2. Okay, that one's done. All right, and then the last cornerstones. We got the B's. That was these. And now we need 2 of the 1 UC. So pick out 2 for that. I'm going to line it up just like I did the others. Setting my point right there on the seam and trim it all the way around. One and 2. Always double check before I start cutting away. What does that measure once or measure twice, cut once? All right, so those are all the components to put together block 8, which you're going to be making 4 of these. So let's go back over here and let's lay it out on the wall. All right, going to our large 7.5 inch hourglass. This one is done with the lights on the top and the darks on the sides. I'm going to set this here. That's the start of it. Then we have our hourglasses. We have the C's, the U2Ds, and the U2Cs. The U2Cs are, I believe, are the lighter ones. Make sure I don't got my label on it. So the green dots, they go on the outside. So these are the U2Ds. So they go where the color, the light is pointing in. So this one goes here. And this one goes here. Those were the D's. Now we're looking at the C's. And they go top and bottom center with the color, the light pointing in here and here. Now we grab our cornerstones. The top cornerstones are the B's, U1B, and that's these right here. So the light is on the inside, here and here. And then grabbing the U1Cs with the light going on the inside, here and here. So there you go. You're going to make 4 of these. This is block 8. And you're just going to make 1 of these. So do I need to sew them up? What do y'all think? Do I need to sew them? Let's sew one up. We'll sew this one up. So these are rows. So there's 2 ways that you could do this. You can go ahead and sew this one, and this one, and then add this one, this one, this one. Or you could sew this row, and this row, whichever way you feel comfortable. So either way, you're going to want to be sure that you have the opposite in your pressing so that all your seams will nest. So with these, I would be having my seams pressed in, and these I would have my seams pressed out. So let's start with this row here. We're going to do this. We're going to do it as a row going all the way across. So I'm just going to lay these on top. And we're going to make sure we're right back at 1/4 inch. These are not nesting, so you're just going to have to hold it in place. And sew 1/4 inch all the way down. And probably do that scant quarter. Since I want my seams to go in, these are going to be pressed to the outside, like this. So then I put this last one on. pressing my first row to the outside. So I just finger pressed it to the outside. Now these I'm going to press to the inside. So 1, 2, 3. So my 1/4 inch down. Sure everything lines up. And then get the last one on. Being careful to not sew that point. Don't want to sew your point in. Anchoring stitches, and then I'm coming down, making sure I don't sew that point. Alright. Now these seams are pressing to the inside, so I'm going to go ahead and press these. They got a little bit of bulk there, so I'm pressing these to the inside. And hoping that you didn't catch your little point. I barely caught it right there. This one going right here. And then this last row, same, I'm going to be sewing these to the, pressing these to the outside. Row to go. Make sure nothing's shifted. And again, these get pressed to the outside. That way they'll nest nice and pretty. This one goes here. All right, so let's sew these 3 together and then we will be done with this block. So as we're sewing this, we're going to make sure our seams kind of nest, and we're going to make sure we do not loose sew into our point. I'm trying to get this to nest a little better. Here we go. Being very careful to stay in that seam allowance. Got our first point coming up here in the center. Got our last nesting right here of the seams here. One more row to go. Sure everything's lined up nicely. I still have my points. How cool is that? anchoring stitches, making sure everything nesting in. Coming across my first point, don't want to lose it, so we're going to be very careful. It's a close one. Nest my last seam. And then get my last edge. All right, we're going to give this a final press. Now what you need for this to measure out to be is 12 and a half inches. And the first one I did was right at 12 and a half inches, so I'm sure that this one's pretty darn close. I want my seams to go in a certain way, so you might have to flip it over just to kind of coax it to do what you want it to do, so everything lays nice and flat. Looking to make sure I haven't lost any of my points. I'm going to spritz this with a little bit of water, give it a good press, and then I'm going to lay it underneath my block press so it will be nice and crisp and flat. My block press is, I believe, 13 inches. So I've got this little bubble here where the seam is trying to come back up on me. So I'm going to hit it with a little steam so it will stay flat. Coaxing that seam the way I want it to go. Good press, good press. And then I'm going to set my block on it. Give it just a second to set. And this one right here is sewn the exact same way. And this is what that block looks like finished. This one right here. So this one is this block there. So like I said, you're going to make 4 of these, and you only have to make 1 of these. So this is your block A, and this is your block, well, this is your block 8. So there you go.
Beautiful.
I know. So let's measure this one real quick. Should be 12 and a half inches. I didn't even have to really square it up yesterday. It was pretty good. Will you look at that? This is this is pretty darn close, right on the money at 12 and a half inches square. I mean, could do a little bit, but it's perfect. So there you go. How awesome is that? So there are your 2 blocks. You only make 1 of this one, block 1, and you make 8 of these. So that one just got to get finished, and these just got to get finished. So you got to have them all done before the end of the show, for the last 10 months. So I just recommend just going ahead and get them done every month. So and get your little baggie. So I got my little baggie here, and what I wrote on my first one, this is going to be holding block 1, make 1. So block 1, make 1 is going in here, and I will set it aside for whenever we go to start to put the pieces together. All right, so yeah, you make 4 blocks of 8, only 1 block of 1. So that's where my number 1 is going, in here. And then when I have all of my 8s done, I got 1 done, they're all going to go into this one. This is what I'm doing to kind of make sense for my organization, for me to wrap my brain around. And that way I'll be able to put them someplace where they will stay nice and safe. Okay, so, any questions on any of this? Oh my goodness. This is a big undertaking. Woo. Thanks, Colby. This is going to be fun. We're going to have so much fun doing this. I can tell you one thing, using Martelli tools just makes everything just come out so perfect, from using the tools to square things up to having the organizational tools. If you want to work with the chip markers, you can label all those, but because everything changes so rapidly or so much, I found that using the post-it notes worked a little bit better. Using the block presses makes everything so good. Yeah, so again, we'll be getting this up there. So those of you who are really interested in getting the pattern, why don't you go ahead and reach out to me at learn@martellinotions.com. But should be looking for it in the next week or two. We're going to have that site built on the main page so that you can see, you know, if you want to get the pattern, if you need to get the book, which I recommend having the binder book, and then getting the, poor James is having to follow me around. Get the binder book. This is just going to be so much easier to work with having this. Get you a little notebook, write A through T all the way in. About to run out of memory. Okay, well, I think that's everything. So, all right, so the next time we get together is going to be the last Tuesday in February, and I don't even know the date of that. So whatever that is. So we'll be keeping you up on it. So thank you so much for hanging out with me on a long afternoon. You guys have a wonderful day, and I will see you guys again Thursday. Bye-bye, everybody.